So my first question is, will the Dodgers go far in the postseason?
Oh, obviously they're they're pretty damn good. They're the best team in baseball for a reason. They spent a lot of money. They had a lot of prospects that are now on the team, like Dustin May. I think it's fair to say they're going to go far. Their pitching staff right now leads the majors in ERA. If they have the least amount of runs scored, the least amount of walks, and whip. Their offense leads the majors in homers and runs scored. They're pretty solid. I mean, everybody will like to rag on Clayton Kershaw every year because they don't know if he's going to show up. Right now, he's on fire. Like he's pitching like an ace. Uh, Dustin May's pitching. He's a rookie, but he's pitching. He's pitching like a veteran. And Walker Bueller. I don't know. He's been a bit shaky lately. And Julio Urias, who's been pitching most of their games, he's been okay too. But their bullpen, I guess, is what's been getting them all those numbers. So you never know in the postseason, especially in those short first series. They could be out in the first round because of the 5 game series. So I mean, I still believe they're going to go far. I mean, the National League isn't as strong as it could have been going into the season. And there's a lot of injuries, some guys opting out. So I think the Dodgers are destined to make the World Series again and probably end their whatever 35 40 year run almost of infutility and all the heartbreak they've had in the last few years of blaming everybody for all their problems. But yeah, I'd say they're going pretty far. What do you think?
A definite foul for me. Although they've had a tremendous year, of course. Pitching was exceptional, and hitting was mostly in the top 10 in the major categories. But I still feel that the playoffs is a different beast, and the Dodgers have a history of crashing and burning in recent years, and especially in this new playoff format where other teams that are beneath them are hungrier and they're fresher than ever, and they're gonna seize a lot of opportunities. It all depends on Dave Roberts making the right moves. I do think that the Dodgers could falter at some point. The pitching, Clayton Kershaw has been, again amazing in the season, but the playoffs, he's not really the greatest playoff performer. As far as the offense is concerned, they really got to step it up. They can't falter at the end. So I'm doubtful about the Dodgers' hopes of winning the World Series this year, or probably even possibly even going far. So will the New York Mets be successful going forward under the new ownership?
Well, I mean,
Whereabouts?
new ownership in New York doesn't really mean a lot. It just means there's still a lot of money that they're going to probably throw around. And as long as the owner doesn't get involved with the GM and make decisions like the old Steinbrenners and the Yankees, then I'm sure the Mets will be fine. I mean, the Mets they could have been better this season. They didn't have Syndergaard and Stroman, so I mean, their pitching staff would have been a lot better. They probably would be in a better position in the playoffs right now because their offense is top 10 right now. Like they lead the majors in home runs and runs scored. They're top 10 in runs scored and home runs and stuff like that. So they're definitely a team that could have been scarier. Even if I mean, somehow sneak into the playoffs, they can still have Degrom and Peterson's been pitching pretty good for them lately. But going forward, they do have some good young talent on their team. Like Pete Alonso is not having a great year, but Dominic Smith looks like their breakout star. He's so old school. Like I think he's becoming one of my favorite players in baseball. Always rooting for him whenever I see him at bat. So yeah, I think it's fair to say they'll be successful just because of the guys that they don't have right now and the guys that currently have. You mix them together and they should have a better squad. What do you think? You think they're gonna? You think they'd be better off with A-Rod and J Lo constantly having cameras in the stands looking
Oh
at them,
my goodness.
or this guy Cohen, Steve Cohen?
Well, thankfully, Jennifer Lopez and A-Rod was not able to buy the team. Otherwise, there's going to be a huge distraction when they're always going to be on camera in the skybox somewhere in City Field. It's a fair for me that Steve Cohen, from a business standpoint, him and his ownership group will put the Mets in a better financial road after the Wilpons were impacted by the Ponzi scheme scandal, and they have seen a lot of times the Mets fans being frustrated when they were in control. the sale of the Mets, of course, has to be approved by MLB owners. But when that's all said and done, I think the Mets and the fans will be seeing a new era in Mets baseball and a breath of fresh air. Certainly, a lot of question remains. So, what type of investments they would make to the team? So, I do think that they need to build around their pitching staff, around Jacob Degrom, their ace, and when Noah Syndergaard comes back, they also need to build around their hitting because their hitting is exceptional right now with Jeff McNeil, Dominic Smith, as you mentioned, and Pete Alonso. So going forward, I do think that they're going to have a really good, positive outcome in baseball, and they'll perform very well. So the World Series will be held at Globe Life Field in Texas as part of the postseason bubble. What are your thoughts of it? Fair or foul?
Well, I don't know. I'd say because of the situation, they're doing a bubble for the playoffs. I mean, would have been hard to do a bubble for the regular season, but I'd say it's fair right now. It's a neutral site. I mean, I understand what they're trying to do, and yeah, you don't want too many games being people crossing to cities that might have a lot of COVID cases and such. I mean, if it's good enough for the NFL to award it to have teams playing in a neutral site for their championship, then why can't MLB do that? Like, what's the difference? Like, I mean, I understand. Oh, we got a home field advantage, blah blah blah. There is no home field advantage this year. There's no fans. Like, it doesn't matter where they freaking play. Like, who cares where they play right now? Oh, like the Yankees, they're the kind of team that would cry that they don't get to play in their stadium where all their pop flies end up being home runs. Like, that's one of the teams that would complain about that kind of stuff. Like, because their team's built on power in their arch. What's it called? The angle of the ball going up in the air, and like the Dodgers, same thing. They want like a smaller stadium where they could blast home runs, whatever. But it doesn't matter. There's no such thing as home field advantage. So a ballpark like that is brand new. It's good for Texas to get that ballpark on the map. But this is fair for me. It doesn't matter. No, there's no fans to make a difference. There's no ballparks unless you're playing in Fenway or something with Big Green Monster, which could have an effect on teams. But Texas isn't making the playoffs, so it doesn't even matter. Unless so I don't know. What do you think? Like,
100% fair for me. It's a brand new ballpark, as you mentioned, that looks like a giant barbecue grill. Although it's a gorgeous stadium, it's just too bad that they had to open their new ballpark without any fans. But I guess hosting the World Series is some sort of consolation for them. We'll just have to wait and see how the playoff bubbles will turn out for the MLB players, if they'll get used to it or not. Just like what the NBA and the NHL have done. So let's hope that everybody's gonna be comfortable playing in the postseason in a bubble.
yeah, I'm sure they'll be pampered enough, so they'll have all the amenities that Texas has to offer. So Albert Pujols passed Willie Mays this week for fifth on the all-time home run list with 661. He's 40 years old. He's 35 home runs away from fourth place, and he's only got 1 year left on his contract. So do you think Albert Pujols is going to pass Alex Rodriguez for fourth all time on the home run list?
I'm gonna have to say foul. Although Albert Pujols is 40 years of age and has not decided on retirement yet, despite the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, his current contract with the Angels, of course, will expire next season, and I think he'll definitely be back. But he's probably gonna come close to A Rod's record. Um, you know, uh, like after next year, who knows what his decision will be like. But I don't think that he's going to reach Alex Rodriguez's number, uh, because he needs about 30 more home runs to hit the 696 mark. um, Albert Pujols has not hit 30 home runs or more since 2016, so it's definitely going to be a tough call for him, and also the question of his health as well, that'll come in question. But certainly, he may not reach A Rod's record, but certainly he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I actually think he has a chance, just because of the way the game is right now with the launch angle and everything. And if to me the important thing I find is his contract is up in the year, so is someone going to sign him? Like, do they want this old guy? He's a veteran. He's a Hall of Famer. Like, I feel like if the National League does go to a DH rule, then he might have a chance because all he needs to play is another 2-3 years and have at least 10 home runs, and he can do that if he can find a home. If he has like entire league, extra league to try and find a place to play. There's a lot of teams that would love to have a guy like him as a DH or bat off the bench, or just an extra first baseman whenever they need him. Like I have a feeling he'll play because he's proving that he can still hit better. I mean, the guy's hitting better than Justin Upton, Joe Adell on the Angels right now. Like that's embarrassing. Like come on, like I mean, the guy he can still hit. Like he's still got the power. So in this day and age of home runs, I think it's very possible. It's up to him, and because I'm sure teams will sign him to 1-year deals after he's up for the Angels. So speaking of new rules, do you think the MLB should keep the current playoff format of 16 teams?
100% fair for me. This is an absolute gold mine for Major League Baseball, and they should keep investing us in this idea. Certainly, does they finally realize that they're following the NHL and NBA format in this one, in their postseason format. Not only does it give more teams opportunities to compete for a postseason berth, it will continue to boost TV revenues and gate attractions. Because in this day and age, that's all what we expect for sports. Because we love it so much and we are fans of the game. And another crazy idea too is perhaps they should start the season way earlier, so they can accommodate the postseason, and hopefully it doesn't stretch out till November.
Well, they need to shorten spring training because like spring training is way too long, and shorten spring training and shorten the regular season, and then you can have expanded playoffs and make the first round 7 games. Like, don't make it a 5-game series. It's so ridiculous. Like I don't know how this doesn't compute with people that are against this. This creates more races, which creates more interest, which means there's more fans in the seats. How many games we've seen in August and September? Nobody's in the crowd for half the teams in baseball because it's summertime. People want to be out. If their team sucks, they're not going to care. They're not going to go spend money. More teams in the playoffs equals more revenue. Everyone makes more money. The NHL and NBA have proven, and the NFL to a certain extent, in terms of their playoffs are a little bit expanded, but they all have 2 things baseball doesn't: expanded playoffs and salary caps. And they're all more right now. They're all more healthier than baseball right now. I'm sick and tired of watching these teams try to outspend their way to a World Series and have teams like Detroit, Kansas City, Pittsburghs of the world just disappearing into the limelight. These teams are going to be contracted because baseball is a dying sport, and like you need it to revive. We can't do it without the players because there's no personalities, and baseball doesn't like to market anybody for some reason. Trevor Bauer has to do it on his own. So, I mean, if you're against a 16-team playoff format, you should stop watching baseball right now because you're not a real fan of pro sports. You'd rather watch it die just so teams like the Dodgers, who baseball right now is built for, the whole system is built so that the rich teams and the big markets can succeed because that's all baseball seems to care about. But before I go crazy on this, I'm imploding. And right now there's another team that's currently imploding. It's the Toronto Blue Jays. Oh my God, 6 straight losses. Hanju Ryu pitched and they couldn't score any freaking runs. Oh my God, like this pitching staff I thought they got better at the deadline. They made a bunch of deals. They're right now they've allowed the 4th most home runs. They're bottom in the majors in earned runs. They've walked the 2nd most batters. They're one behind Boston. That's ridiculous. And they're the 4th worst whip. I don't even know how they're in a playoff spot right now, to be honest. Like. My question is, are the Blue Jays imploding, and do you think they're going to miss the playoffs? Because this is a scary time for Charlie Montoyo. Maybe he's losing the room. I don't know, like with all the stupid moves that he's making.
Yeah, I totally agree. Fair for me that they are imploding right now. It's not the best time to implode, especially when you have about 10 games left, and for teams that obliterate you like the New York Yankees this week. I don't think that the Jays' chances is pretty high right now to make the postseason. It's looking very bleak for the Blue Jays, despite all the acquisitions they made in the deadline. Really nothing to show for it with offense and hitting. They have the Phillies this weekend. The Phillies are streaking right now. They're playing a 4-game set with them. And then next week, to wrap up the year, they got the Yankees again, and the Orioles at Salem Field. So the chances does not look very promising for the Blue Jays. Definitely, their momentum is really running low right now.
Yeah, it could just be thing of a young team that's never been part of something like this. Maybe they're feeling the pressure now. But I don't know. They were playing better when Boba wasn't on the team. So don't ask me what's going on. This has been a weird year, and then obviously for the Blue Jays, it's been a strange season. So we'll see what happens in the next 10 games.